everyone. This is Christian from ClicData, and it is my pleasure to kick off our new ClicData Pro Workshop Series, where we'll walk you through common use cases and show you how to solve them using the ClicData platform. Today's video is about period comparisons and the many ways you can introduce them to your dashboards. Period comparisons are important because they'll show you how your business is performing over time, allowing you and your end users to dig deeper for better business insights. To tackle on today's topic, we'll be using a campaign performance table, which contains a date column, and a revenue metric, which we'll be performing period comparisons on. Now, please note, we are using the marketing industry strictly as an example, so as long as your data contains a date column and a metric suitable for a period comparison, then this video is for you. Also note that because this is a workshop series, we'll start off with a simple solution, then increase the complexity as we go on. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. So our first example is a year-over-year comparison grouped by month on a column chart. Now, to build this is actually straightforward. As we can see in my widget properties, I have the same date column imported as my category, as well as my series grouped by month and year respectively. And I also have my revenue metric imported as my series value. In doing so should already give you a year-over-year comparison. However, if your data spans multiple years like mine does, one thing we can do is introduce a date filter. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm subtracting 1 year from the first day of the year. And when I evaluate this formula, I'll get January 1st, 2025. So this will remove 2024 entirely from my chart. Once you have that, feel free to go ahead and format the chart to make sure that you achieve the cosmetic that you're looking for, and you're good to go. So our second example will cover period comparisons using a scorecard widget. Now, when the scorecard widget is used in this manner, it is very effective at headlining how well your business is performing over time as soon as the dashboard loads. So on my dashboard, I have two number indicators set up. So the first number indicator is summing my revenue metric filtered for current year to date. The other number indicator is doing the same thing, but filtered for the previous year to date. These two number indicators will be sourcing my scorecard widget to minimize formula complexity. But for the scorecard, I have it built so it's 1 row and 2 columns. The first cell will be displayed as an indicator, and here we'll calculate the percentage difference between the two number indicators. We'll also copy and paste this for the icon value as well. Now, for the conditional style, here's where we set up our conditional formatting criteria. So one criteria is to display an up green arrow when the value is greater than 0. And the other criteria is to show a red down arrow when the value is less than or equal to 0. For the second cell, we'll just have it as fixed text. We'll call it previous year as so. So once your scorecard is set up, a couple of things we recommend doing is removing the background so it's transparent, removing the borders and shadows as well. And this will allow you to blend it in with your number indicator as so for a seamless effect. Our third example will cover period comparisons on a drill down table. And here we'll leverage Transact-SQL calculated columns to calculate the current and previous year, as well as leverage ClicData's native syntax to calculate our percentage changes. So on my dashboard, I have a drill down table with drill down columns already implemented. And we also have 4 calculated columns to calculate our period comparison. For current year and previous year, we are using Transact-SQL expressions to calculate them. Now, when using Transact-SQL expressions, there are some rules to follow. Now, the first rule is that the expression needs to be passed as a string, hence the use of single quotes at the start and end of the formula. Second, when using ClicData's native syntax and functions within Transact-SQL expressions, they need to be wrapped using single quote and plus, as you can see on my screen. And lastly, since we use single quotes to denote strings and date values, they need to be escaped using backslash. And the one way you can know you're doing it correctly is by evaluating the expression, and it should print out a valid Transact-SQL expression. And for the previous year, we'll just copy and paste the current year's Transact-SQL expression, then adjust the date range accordingly. For the percentage change value and indicator, we are using the row value function to reference the value that's displayed on the table and calculating a percentage change based on that. Also, when the previous year is equal to 0, we are falling back to 0 by using the if error function. And so we'll copy this over to our indicator version as well. And last but not least is to conditionally format the indicator. As you can see here, we are following the same criteria as the scorecard. For our last example, we'll be implementing a date range picker so we can grant end users the ability to choose which comparison period they want to see. We'll be implementing standard periods such as year over year, month over month, etc., as well as custom periods in case they need to see something more specific. Now for the date ranges, we'll be using dashboard formulas to keep our date ranges organized. This is a much more scalable way, especially when we're increasing the complexity of our dashboard. Now for current start and current end, these are straightforward. We're just grabbing the selected start date and selected end date of our date range picker respectively. However, for previous start and previous end, this is where we are introducing a logical statement to check if the selected label of the date range picker is null. By selected label, we are referring to one of these standard periods here. And if one of the standard periods is not selected, that means they are invoking a custom period. But if something is selected here, that is a standard period, and so that will return false. If it is false, what we're doing is we're grabbing the selected start date of our date range picker and subtracting 1 unit from that selected start date. The 1 unit is determined by the selected label of the date range picker. So for example, if I have month selected, we're subtracting 1 month from the selected start date. Now, if the end user decides to go and select a custom period, then this logical statement will evaluate to true. And here we're doing a date add function where we're adding X number of days to the selected start date of our date range picker. Now, in terms of the dashboard formula date diff, we actually have a fifth dashboard formula here, which calculates the difference in days between the selected end date and the selected start date so that it returns a negative number. And then we subtract 1 so that we keep the timeframes consistent. For previous end, we're doing the same sort of concept. If the selected label of the date range picker is null, this will return true, and we'll subtract 1 day from the selected start date of that date range picker. If it is false, which means it's a standard period, then we're just subtracting 1 unit from the selected end date. And so in this case, this would be month. With our date range picker and dashboard formulas now set up, we can update our previous 2 examples just to keep this as digestible as possible. So starting with the scorecard, because it's fueled by our 2 number indicators, we need to update the number indicators so that they use the dashboard formula date ranges. So for our current revenue, you'll see that we've created 2 filters to use the current start and current end. And then for our previous revenue, do the same thing, but use our previous start and previous end dashboard formulas. One other cool trick that we can do for the scorecard is set the second cell so that is based on a formula. And here I'm performing a concatenate where I'm saying versus previous and then grabbing the selected label of the date range picker. Now, if the date range picker's selected label is null, hence a custom period, then we'll just fall back to period. And so for the drill down table, we are essentially doing the same concept, but updating our Transact-SQL expressions. So for current year and previous year, you'll see that we are using the dashboard formulas instead. And one cool thing with the drill down table specifically is that we can set the headers so that they're based on a formula. And here we're doing the same concept of performing a concatenation with, we're saying current in this case, and then grabbing the selected label of the date range picker. And of course, if it's null, hence a custom period, then fall back to period. So there's one last trick that we can do to improve the user experience of our dashboard. And so in my dashboard, I have a scorecard widget, and here I'm just displaying the previous start and previous end date values for my dashboard formulas. Now, this is just a quick and easy way to let end users know what previous period they're comparing to. So for example, if I select year, I'm getting January 1st to February 18th as of the time of recording of 2025. So that concludes the first episode of our ClicData Pro Workshop Series, and we strongly hope these examples prove to be educational across all levels with the platform. If you have any questions on the content or have suggestions for other use cases, feel free to drop a comment below, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.